Hello, my name is Dave Persons. I've always been interested in climbing mountains. I've just been interested in mountains. When I was in college, I used to climb up a mountain which was nearby just to gain perspective on my life. I always envied people like Willie Unseld, who was one of the first American men to ascend Mount Everest in 1963. I read his autobiography and was fascinated by it. I envied Ed Kilgore, who a few months ago went with a group of people from the area to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, Africa, and I thought, wow, I'm not much older than he is. Perhaps I could do that too. I've always liked to climb mountains, and so finally last summer, in my retirement, I climbed 2 mountains of the high peaks up in the Adirondacks, and it was a wonderful experience. In sacred traditions, mountains are an important part also. It was on the mountain that the Ark of Noah settled after 40 days and 40 nights, bouncing around in the floodwaters. It was on a mountain that Moses went up to receive a call. He was to go out and to lead the people out of Israel. It was later on a mountain where he went up and he was transfigured himself and transformed when he received the law, being there some 40 days and 40 nights, which is also that same familiar figure of days again. It was also on a mountain that Moses first saw the promised land. It was also on that same Mount Nebo where he died and was buried. Elijah went to a mountain in a cave where he waited until he heard that still small voice. Jesus went to mountains also. And on this day, in the tradition of most Christian churches, we remember his Mount of Transfiguration, where he took 2 of his disciples and went up to the mountain, and there after several days, in a long period of time, he is transfigured, transformed into like a bright sun. It's also a common story in other traditions. It's found in Buddha, who was transfigured on a mountain in what is today modern Sri Lanka. It was common in ancient Egypt. Horus, who was transfigured on a mountain in a very similar way, a very similar story. There's many such stories of these kinds of god-men in ancient Hellenistic cultures of the Middle East. So what do they all mean? Well, for one, mountain's a very important symbol. Mountain is like the symbol of our entry into death of earth, from that eternal light, from that eternal love, or from heaven itself. And when we leave earth, it's like we leave the mountain, we leave death, and return to that eternal life. It also represents a place that we can go in this life to be reawakened. When we come to that place where we just are wondering, who am I? And why am I here? And what am I for? And how can I get rid of all these fears of living and dying and judgments I have on myself and others and the guilt that I carry? How can I get rid of that? Sometimes a teacher helps, and sometimes a teacher will instruct us to go to a place and just sit and meditate and think and be transfigured. Someone once said that by the age 40, most of us have earned a desire. We have earned the face that we have desired all these years. What do they mean? It means if we have spent most of our earth days worrying and fear and scolding and criticizing and judging, then we'll have those kinds of lines on our faces. On the other hand, if we've been able to somehow overcome those guilts and fears and angers and forgiving ourselves and others, well, we'll show joy. We will be transfigured. The lines will be different than the lines of fear and worry and disgust and deep anger. When we spend time on wherever our mountain is and listen in either a retreat, a teacher, a study of scriptures, or perhaps going to a literal mountain itself, or just to a room in your house, or to a temple, or a quiet place, or the beach. If you do this on a regular way, you too will experience what I'm talking about. Thomas Merton tells about when he was in Gethsemane, the monastery in Kentucky. He was allowed to go into a hermitage in the woods and spend there weeks and months. And he came out of that experience after some weeks had passed and went into the town of Louisville. And there, standing on the corner of 4th and Walden Avenue, he said he was overwhelmed with a sense of love for all of the people. He wanted to put his arms around the whole city of Louisville and tell them that they were loved, that they were all one, and that God was with them. But he said, I knew I couldn't force that, but it felt so good. You too will know what I mean when you have that sense that God has totally taken you over. You know, times couples get married and they're greatly happy and love and romantic and they want to be together all the time, but as the months and the years and the works and the schedules and the bills have to be paid and go by, they can lose some of that romance and they can become estranged. Often I have told couples over the years, well, you need to go away on a honeymoon again. Go to a mountain place, go on a vacation and just be together and learn to love and enjoy each other again. The same way with our experience with the divine. If you have no sense or even disgust about God or that which is transcendent within you, it's time for you to take a little honeymoon. Find some quiet place, a mountain cabin, some place along the beach or a walk, and go and spend time with God. Take a retreat at one of the area retreat houses and stay for a few days. Stay for 30 days, as some do. And if you wait and don't force it and listen, you too will experience that transcendent spirit which will transfigure and transform your whole life. Sometimes breaking into that pattern is difficult when we're not used to it. When I first made a decision that I was going to climb the giant mountain in the Adirondacks, I thought, well, what have I done? You know, I had to make sure I was training and getting the right gear, and even when the day that it came, I wondered if I could do it, if I wanted to do it. Well, we started walking, and I was assured that we would rest as much as we needed, and we were just to take one step at a time. And finally, after 3 hours, we reached the top, and I did it. I was overwhelmed with joy. When I saw the views and the vistas, I felt like crying. I felt like shouting, oh joy, and singing. Others were just sitting in meditation. If you too make the decision that you want to follow where you can find a place to be at peace and meditate and experience that transforming, transfiguring presence, you will do it, and you will be pleased and you will be blessed with peace. I encourage you to do it. And if you have any problems, questions, feel free to contact me, and I will do the best I can to help you. Meanwhile, God be with you, God's peace be with you, namaste, and climb the mountain each day.